Imagine opening a package on your doorstep, and the moment you lift the lid, it explodes. For nearly 2 decades, a mysterious figure stalked America, mailing bombs to unsuspecting victims. He was brilliant, he was a recluse, and he became one of the most infamous domestic terrorists in U.S. history. This is the story of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski wasn't always a monster. In fact, he was once called a genius. At just 16, he entered Harvard. By his mid-20s, he had a PhD in mathematics and was teaching at UC Berkeley. But behind the brilliant mind was a man who felt deeply out of place in the modern world. Socially isolated, frustrated with technology, he abandoned his career. He disappeared into a tiny wooden cabin in Montana. No electricity, no running water, just the wilderness. But Ted's seclusion didn't bring him peace. Instead, it fueled his rage. He believed technology was destroying human freedom, and that scientists and corporations were enslaving mankind. So he decided to fight back with bombs. In 1978, a package appeared at a Chicago university. When opened, it exploded. It was the first of 16 bombs that Ted would send over 17 years. His targets: professors, airlines, computer store owners, anyone linked to science and technology. His bombs killed 3 people and injured 23. The FBI called him Unabomber, short for University and Airline Bomber. And soon, the entire nation was terrified. In 1995, the Unabomber made his boldest move yet. He demanded that the Washington Post and the New York Times publish his 35,000-word manifesto, titled Industrial Society and Its Future. It warned of technology enslaving humanity. The FBI agreed, hoping someone would recognize his writing. And someone did. Ted's younger brother, David, read the manifesto, and his heart sank. The strange phrases, the ideas, the obsession with technology, it sounded just like Ted's letters. In a heartbreaking decision, David went to the FBI. His tip led them straight to that tiny Montana cabin. On April 3, 1996, federal agents swarmed the cabin. Inside, they found bomb-making materials, explosive chemicals, and journals filled with rants against technology. After nearly 2 decades, the Unabomber's reign of terror was over. In 1998, Ted Kaczynski pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. For years, he lived in America's most secure prison, the Colorado Supermax. To this day, his story haunts the nation, a tale of genius twisted into darkness, and a reminder of how obsession can turn deadly. What do you think? Was Ted Kaczynski simply insane? Or did his warnings about technology contain some truth? On an ordinary April morning in 1995, the heart of America was shaken by a sound so powerful it echoed across the nation, a sound born not of nature, but of hate. What began as a calm spring day in Oklahoma City would end as one of the deadliest acts of domestic terrorism in American history. April 19, 1995. The sun had just risen over Oklahoma City. Workers poured into downtown offices. Parents dropped off children at the daycare inside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. By 9 a.m., the building was alive with the quiet rhythm of a normal workday. But outside, a rented Ryder truck slowly rolled to a stop in front of the 9-story federal building. The driver, Timothy McVeigh, climbed out, locked the door, and walked away. Inside that truck sat nearly 5,000 pounds of homemade explosives, carefully packed into barrels. At 9:02 a.m., downtown Oklahoma City erupted. The truck exploded with a thunderous roar, ripping through the Murrah building with unimaginable force. Windows shattered for blocks, cars ignited. A third of the building collapsed instantly, crushing everything and everyone inside. The blast was so powerful, It registered as an earthquake on local seismographs. People miles away thought a plane had crashed. In those first few seconds, chaos swallowed the city. Smoke and dust choked the air. Survivors stumbled through the wreckage, screaming for help. Parents ran toward the daycare center, only to find it destroyed. 168 people were dead. 19 of them were children. Hundreds more were injured. At first, investigators suspected foreign terrorists, but within hours, a clue surfaced. The rear axle of the Ryder truck, blown clear of the blast, still had a vehicle identification number. That number led authorities to a rental company in Kansas. The truck had been rented under a fake name by Timothy McVeigh. McVeigh, a decorated Gulf War veteran, had grown obsessed with anti-government ideology. He believed the government was corrupt and oppressive. The 1993 Waco siege and the Ruby Ridge standoff had fueled his rage. In his mind, the Murrah building, a federal hub, was the perfect target. But McVeigh wasn't hard to find. Just 90 minutes after the bombing, he was pulled over by a state trooper for driving without a license plate and carrying an illegal gun. He was already in custody before the FBI even knew who he was. The nation demanded answers. Why would an American soldier slaughter his own people? McVeigh showed no remorse. He saw himself as a soldier striking back against tyranny. In court, survivors and grieving families listened as prosecutors laid out his meticulous plan. The jury needed just 80 minutes to sentence him to death. The Oklahoma City bombing left scars that never fully healed. Entire families were torn apart. First responders carried memories they could never escape. The daycare center became a symbol of innocent lives cut short. But the attack also changed America. It exposed the dark thread of homegrown extremism and reshaped how the FBI and law enforcement tracked domestic terrorism. Today, where the Murrah building once stood, there is a memorial. 168 empty chairs, each one etched with a name. 19 of the chairs are small, for the children who never made it home. The Oklahoma City bombing wasn't just an act of terror. It was a reminder of how far hate can go and how many lives it can destroy. And it all began with one man, one truck, and a devastating plan to make America bleed. April 20th, 1999. A quiet morning in Littleton, Colorado. Students at Columbine High School were laughing, chatting, and preparing for an ordinary day. But by the end of that morning, 13 people would be dead, dozens more wounded, and a nation forever scarred. This is the story of the Columbine High School massacre. It began like any other Tuesday. Students filled the halls, teachers handed out assignments. Nobody knew what was about to happen. 2 students, seniors, just weeks away from graduation, arrived at the school parking lot. But they didn't come with books. They came with guns, ammunition, and homemade explosives. At 11:19 a.m., the sound of gunfire shattered the spring air. Outside the school cafeteria, the attackers opened fire on students eating lunch outdoors. Panic erupted instantly. Some ran, some froze, some hid, hoping the nightmare would pass them by. But the nightmare was just beginning. The attackers stormed the library, the heart of the school, for 7 terrifying minutes. Gunfire echoed through the stacks. Students hid under desks, whispering prayers, trying not to breathe too loudly. The gunmen moved methodically, searching for victims. By the time it was over, 10 students had been killed in that single room. Outside, chaos reigned. Police swarmed the building. Parents rushed to the school, desperate for news of their children. Helicopters circled overhead. Nobody knew how many shooters there were, or whether the attack would spread to nearby neighborhoods. The entire community felt like it was under siege. After nearly an hour of terror, the shooters turned their weapons on themselves. In total, 12 students and 1 teacher were killed. More than 20 others were injured. It was one of the deadliest school shootings in American history at the time, and it shocked the world. The Columbine massacre left more than grief. It changed how schools prepared for emergencies. It reshaped police tactics for responding to active shooters, and it ignited national debates about bullying, gun laws, mental health, and the influence of media. But most of all, it left scars that survivors still carry to this day. More than 2 decades later, Columbine is still remembered as a turning point, a moment when the world realized that even a high school, a place meant to be safe, could become a battleground. To the victims and survivors, their stories will never be forgotten. In this story, I have purposely not mentioned the names of the attackers, because I think it's more important to remember the victims. The 13 lives lost that day were Cassie Burnell, age 17, Stephen Curnow, age 14, Corey DePuter, age 17, Kelly Fleming, age 16, Matthew Kechter, age 16, Daniel Mouser, age 15, Daniel Rohrbaugh, age 15, Rachel Scott, age 17, Isaiah Schulz, age 18, John Tomlin, age 16, Lauren Townsend, age 18, Kyle Velasquez, age 16, William Dave Sanders, age 47, a teacher and coach who tried to save his students.